lesson, 4-5B. 4-5B. Okay. We're going to start the next 3 lessons. Yep, 3 lessons on quadratic equations. Yeah. Now, every chapter we've had some equations to solve. You've had linear equations. You had absolute value equations. We have quadratic equations, okay? So this is what our quadratic equation is going to be. It's going to look like this. ax squared plus bx plus c. Everyone knows that that's a quadratic. And we're going to have an equation now, and we're going to need to solve for x. And so you solve for x. And the thing is, these are kind of tricky because x can be one of 3 things. It can either be 1 answer, 2 answers, or no answer at all. Which one is it? Well, we'll have to find out. Okay, now for this, we are going to do 5 ways to solve a quadratic. 5 ways. We're going to learn all 5. Not today. We're going to learn 2 today. 5 ways to solve. And yes, you have to know them all, even if you have your favorite. And I tell you to do one this way and you do it a different way, you get it wrong. So here we go. Here are the 5 ways. Today we're going to do in lesson 4-5, we're going to learn how to solve by my favorite way, which is factoring. Yes, I have a favorite. Favorite way to solve a quadratic is by factoring it. How many of you guys are pretty good at factoring? You're okay with that one? Yeah, a lot of you guys. Okay. The other way we're going to do today is to solve by graphing. And before you groan and go, ugh, graphing again, we're actually going to use our calculators. Woo! We're going to solve quadratics on our calculator. Okay, so those are the first 2 ways. Then on the block day, we will do 4-6, and we're going to learn 2 more ways. We're going to learn the 3rd way, which is called completing the square. This is the one that people don't like. It's hard, okay? Make sure you're here for that. Completing the square. And then number 4, we're going to solve by finding square roots. That's going to be a pretty easy way. Finding square roots. And then finally, 4-7, on Friday, we will learn the 5th and final way, which is probably my least favorite, the quadratic formula. Yep. X is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root. No. B squared minus 4ac all over 2. All right. Sorry, I went up when I should have gone down. Okay. Take it down. Yeah, and you're going to need to know all 5 ways. Isn't this exciting? This is what we're looking forward to this week. Yeah, we got this. All right, so let's start today. Here we go. First one, solve by factoring. Solve by factoring. Okay, here's what we have. We have a quadratic equation. Quadratic equation, when we graph it, it is a parabola, okay? So what we have is this parabola. When we take our parabola and we set it equal to 0. So here's my parabola. When I set it equal to 0, what I'm trying to find are these x values, my x-intercepts, okay? So those are going to be my answer. X equals whatever that x is, x equals whatever that x is. So what we're going to do when we factor, we're going to use something called the zero product property. The zero product property. Here's what the zero product property says. If A times B equals 0, okay? If I told you these 2 things, when I multiply them together, they equal 0, then this is what must be true. A has to be 0, or B has to be 0. Am I right? Yeah, one of them has to be 0, or both of them. But one of them for sure has to be 0. Okay? So that's what we're going to do. We're going to try to find, the zeros of our quadratic function. Quadratics. Find the zeros of our quadratics. Are you ready? I'll let you write that down. And we're going to do this two ways today. And the first way is by factoring. So number one, solve by factoring. Here's how you solve by factoring. First thing you want to do, step number one, is you want to get your equation equal to 0. Okay? We want all the stuff of our equation on one side and 0 on the other. Okay? That's step number one. Step number two, then you are going to use your awesome factoring skills, which you have, right? You have factoring skills? We just took a test on this. Are you pretty good at factoring? You're good. And then finally, 3, we're going to set our factors equal to 0 and solve. Set factors equal to 0 and solve. Okay, that's it. 3 steps. Pretty doable. Here we go. Let's start. I've got a whole bunch for you. You're welcome. Letter A. Let's do this. X squared minus 5x minus 6 equals 0. Okay, here's a quadratic equation. This is a quadratic equation because 1, it's quadratic. See that squared right there? It's quadratic. And 2, it's an equation because it has an equal sign. And so I want to solve this equation by factoring. There are numbers in x that if I were to plug in a number for x, it will equal 0. Like let's try 1. Would 1 work? 1 minus 5 minus 6. No, 1 wouldn't work. Okay, I'm not going to guess though. That's stupid to try every single number. That's dumb. What I want to do is I want to factor this so I can use the zero product property. So you factor using good old star method. 1 times negative 6 up top, negative 5 on the bottom, 1 and 1. And 2 numbers that multiply to give us negative 6 and add up to negative 5. Perfect. Negative 6 and positive 1. And so we write that as x minus 6, x plus 1 equals 0. Okay. Now, here's what that zero product property tells us. I have this, which I can think of as A, and I have that, which I can think of as B. And what I want to do is I want to find out what would happen, how would this be 0? Or how would that be 0? Because then if they multiply, I'll get 0. So what would make this first factor 0? 6, yes. X minus 6, to make it 0, x would be 6. You set your factor equal to 0 and solve. If you want to skip that step because you can just see if I plug 6 in right here, I'll get 0. That's fine. What about this one? X plus 1 could equal 0. That factor could equal 0, and I would get x equals negative 1. So those are my 2 answers. They both work. If you took 6 and plugged it back in, 6 squared is 36. Minus 30 minus 6 gives us 0. Take negative 1 and plug it in, it'll also give you 0 too. If you were to graph this parabola on a graph, it would look like this. Here's negative 1, here's positive 6, and it would have a minimum, and it would look like that. But those would be your x-intercepts at negative 1 and positive 6. Pretty cool, huh? You like it? Great. Letter B. Let's do another one. X squared minus 7x equals negative 12. Ooh. Now, don't just start factoring, okay? You have to make sure that one side equals 0. That's the only way the zero product property works, is if you have factors equals 0. I don't want factors equaling negative 12. There's an infinite amount of numbers that can give me negative 12 when I multiply. I want 0 on this side. So bring everybody over. Add 12 to the other side. Perfect. All right, now factor this thing. So some of you guys skip the star method when A is 1? No? You still use star method? Okay. You can skip it if you want to. If you know how to just straight factor, go ahead. 1 times 12 is 12, negative 7 on the bottom, 1 and 1. 2 numbers multiply to give me 12, add up to negative 7 are -3, and -4. So my factors would be x minus 3 and x minus 4. So let's go ahead and find out our answers. What would make this factor 0? That one's 4, and that one's 3. So my answers would be 3 and 4. Do you remember doing this in Algebra 1? Yeah, a little bit? All right, let's do another one. 2x squared equals -7x plus 15. Okay. Sometimes you have to do a little bit longer way. Like for this one, you don't want to take 2x squared and move it to the other side. You want your x squared term to be positive. So you want to bring these guys over to him, okay? All right, so let's bring them all over. Add 7x over and subtract 15. Okay. Now we want to do star method again. So we're factoring, and we're going to put, what number goes up top? Good, -30, 2 times -15, 7 in the bottom, 2 and 2. And then 2 numbers to multiply to give us -30 add up to 7. Good, 10 and -3. And then 2/10 is 1/5 when we reduce it, and 2 over -3 is already reduced. All right, so my answers, or my factors, would be x plus 5 and 2x minus 3. Okay. The first factor, that's easy to tell what x is, right? To make that 0, x would equal -5. I plug -5 and I get 0. But this one's a little trickier. Okay? This one right here, set it equal to 0 and solve. You can solve that in your head. What would you do? You would add 3 and then divide by 2. So your answers would be -5 and 3/2. All right, let's do 2 more of these. You guys seem bored today. Are you bored? Yeah, I'm sorry. Am I going too fast though? No? You're just real tired and bored today. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought this was kind of fun. All right, 9x squared minus 25 equals 0. Solve by factoring. Do you remember factoring this guy last week? Yeah. This is the difference of 2 perfect squares, right? Remember this? Sure. All right, 9x squared is 3x and 3x. -25 is plus 5 and minus 5. Okay, if you ever struggle at this point, just set your factors equal to 0 and solve them. We have to find out when this factor is 0, and we have to find out when that factor is 0. So here I would subtract 5 and then divide by 3. And over here I would add 5 and I would divide by 3. So I get plus and minus 5/3. There's another way we're going to learn to solve this, and it's better. It's tomorrow, though. Sorry, I won't be a spoiler alert, don't worry. A mathematical spoiler alert. All right, 2 more of these. X squared plus 20x plus 100 equals 0. I'll let you do this one, okay? Because I've done them all so far. You do this one. I know you guys are so excited because the Kings and Ducks play tonight, but we just have to wait. It'll be okay. It'll be 7 soon enough. No one cares. Anybody gonna watch it? Oh, 2, 3. Yes. +1, +1, +1. Extra credit for watching. No, I'm just kidding. I can't do that. Wait, what? Extra credit if the Kings win and if you cheer for them. You are not going to wear your Ducks jersey. You sit at home and watch the game and put your Ducks jersey on? No. I should totally do that. I think I'll put my Carter jersey on. Yes. No, I'll probably wear a King shirt, though. I usually do. On game day. Ooh, this is one of those special cases. Did you recognize it? It's okay if you didn't. It's okay. What times what's 100 adds up to 20? 10 and 10. This one's interesting because every time I've done these, I've gotten 2 answers. But guess what this one is? This one's only 1 answer. Yeah, it is special. Do you know what that looks like on a graph? If I asked you to graph this, okay, using shifting. Do you remember this, shifting? You would shift 10 to the left, and then your parabola would be like this. That's why it only has one solution, because it just touches the x-axis in one spot. Like full circle. We just went full circle there. Yay. Okay, one more. Did I say one more like 3 times? Okay, perfect. 3x squared minus x equals 0. I'm trying to torture you today. It's working. 3x squared minus x equals 0. Now you look at that and you're like, wait a minute. There's only 2 terms there and they're not perfect squares. What's going on? We can't factor that, but you can. You can always factor, or not always, but if there is, what was that? You can factor out the GCF, the greatest common factor. Do they both share a common factor? Yes, it's x, right? Mm-hmm. They both have an x in common. And now, people don't like this because this bothers them. But you still have 2 factors. We have x, and we have 3x minus 1. Okay? Now, what would make this first factor 0? This is not a trick question. 0. Yes, people miss that, though. X equals 0 would make that 0. Look at your equation. Wouldn't 0 work if you plugged it in? 0 minus 0 equals 0. Mm-hmm. And then what about this one? What would the answer here be? Can you do this in your head now? Set it equal to 0 and solve in your head. What would you do first? You would add 1 and then divide by 3. Those are your 2 answers. Okay, whew, we made it to the last part. You thought we were done. Okay, last part, part C, and you need your calculator. So get your calculator out. We're going to solve by graphing on our graphing calculator. You have it? Okay, graphing. Here we go. Now with graphing, this is what you want to do. You want to, once again, have your quadratic set equal to 0. Okay? Then you're going to go to your calculator and you're going to plug this in for y1 and you're going to plug this in for y2. Okay? All right, so we're going to graph 2 equations. We're going to graph 2 things on the same graph. If you have a color graphing calculator, you can see it really nice. It's so nice. I don't. Okay, so on your calculator, this is what's going to happen. You're going to graph y1. Let's say here's y1. y1's a parabola. Then you're going to graph y2. y2 is the line y equals 0. That's going to be here. Okay, some of you won't be able to see it, but it's there. That's y2. And what your job is to find the intersection of those 2 graphs. Okay? And your calculator will do this for you. What you do is this. You go to second, I'm writing this down, you might want to write this down. Second trace. It's one of the top buttons. Second trace is called calc. And when you go to calc, I'll show you. You go to second trace. Oh, hold on. I'm in sequential mode, sorry. Second trace, you get a whole bunch of options. You can find the value, the 0, the minimum, the maximum. Yep, your calculator can find the vertex for you. I didn't tell you that. You can find the intersect. That's what you want. Calc number 5. I don't tell you a lot of things. No offense. I want you to know how to do them by hand. But not this. Yours says error? Okay, let's find out. Here we go. Number 2. Let's do this one. Solve by graphing. 4x squared plus 3x minus 1 equals 0. Okay, so here we go. We're going to take this entire one right here. We're going to plug that in for y1. And then we're going to plug in 0 for y2. Okay? So you go to your calculator. Make sure you clear anything that's not supposed to be there. Okay? Clear anything out. Also, turn your plots off. Are your plots still on? Yeah, turn those off, okay? You arrow up to them and you hit enter. I just turned them on. You arrow up and hit enter. I just turned them off.
How'd you get mine at this?
Go to y equals.
Okay.
Y equals. Okay, so now we're going to put in 4x squared. Here's 4. Remember where x is? X is this button right here underneath mode. 4x squared, use the squared button, plus 3x minus 1. And then in y2, put in y2 equals 0. Okay. There's other ways to do this, but I'm teaching you the intersect method. There's other methods on your calculator, but this one works out really well. But make sure you have a y1 and a y2. Hit zoom 6 so that you have a standard window, because you might have still had your plots from something. There's a standard window. And you should get a parabola. If you have a colored graphing calculator, you can actually see both of the equations, which is unfair. No, I'm just kidding. So what you get is you get a parabola. I'm going to draw mine in blue. And then my y equals 0 is the x-axis. And I need to find the intersect of those two. So I have to find that x, and I have to find that x. There's two of them. Yeah?
So once I got them into my...
hit zoom 6.
Zoom 6.
Yep. Are you good?
Yes.
Okay, so follow this with me. Are you ready? Hit second, trace, and we want to calculate number 5, where these graphs intersect each other. Okay? Go to 5 and hit enter. Now, you have a blinking thing on here. What you want to do is you want to arrow it to one of your answers, one of the intersections. Okay? Let's find the one on the left first. So you're going to arrow to the left, not up or down. You're going to arrow to the left until you're over close to it. Okay? It doesn't have to be exactly on it, but close to it. Okay? Everyone arrowed over to the left side. Now your calculator is asking you some questions, which is very exciting. It's asking you, is the first curve y1 equals 4x squared plus 3x minus 1? They want to know which two things I'm intersecting. Okay? Yes, that is our first curve. Hit enter. Enter. Then they say, is the second curve y2 equals 0? Is that our second curve? Yes, it is. Hit enter. And then your calculator is asking you, do you want me to guess like what it is? Well, I like a little bit more than a guess, but yeah, okay. Hit enter. And x equals -1. Okay? X equals -1. That is one of my answers. Okay? Now, I need to find the other one. We just found this one. X equals -1. Now I have to find this one. So I go to my calculator again, and I go to second trace. I'm going to walk you through it. If you didn't get it the first time, I'm going to walk you through it again. Go to number 5, the intersect. And now, don't leave it there. Go over to the other one by hitting the right arrow button. Okay? It doesn't have to be exactly right on top of it. It has to be pretty close. You know, you could go past it if you want to. As long as this blinking cursor is closer to that one than the other one we already found. And then hit enter because it's asking you, is that the first curve? Is that the second curve? Yes. Enter. Should we guess? Yes. And the answer is 0.25. So x equals -1. And 0.25. And those are your two answers. Okay? Let's try one more of these. Sometimes they're not going to turn out nice. Let's do this one. X squared plus 4x equals 6. Okay. There's other ways to do this. This is the way I teach it. I teach you to get everything over on one side first. Okay? Get your entire parabola to one side, x squared plus 4x minus 6 equals 0. Then go to your calculator and plug in the parabola as y1, and you already have y2 in a 0 from the last problem. So try it. And if you're having trouble with this, your calculator's not working right, raise your hand and I will come over and help you. Okay, so I'm going to do x squared plus 4x minus 6 and 0. And if I hit graph, Ooh, it's a nice wide parabola. Parabola. What happens is you get a pretty wide parabola and you still have y equals 0. It's the horizontal line. And then you want to find those intersection points. Okay? So let's see if you got it. So, and just round it 2 decimal places is fine. So second trace, number 5, the intersect. And it doesn't matter which one you find first. I'm closer to this one, so I'll just go over to it. And I just hit enter 3 times. I know what questions they're asking me now, so you can just hit really quickly, 1, 2, 3, enter, enter, enter. And I get that this is x equals 1.16. Do the whole process again, calculate the intersect, go over to the other one now. Okay, there we are. Hit enter 3 times, and you get negative 5.16. And those are your 2 solutions.